All right, guys, this is a question that I want to answer, and it was sent to me this morning by a friend that I have on Facebook, and it was sent by Messenger. And I want to read this to you, and then I'm going to answer it. And I actually have some audio at the end of this, and me talking to Billy about it. It says, "Good morning. Can you please put an end to the debate on which ball to use for BP? The topic continues to come up, and 200 comments later, zero help." Now, I have talked about this in a few of my videos. A lot of you guys don't want to hear what I have to say. And the reason is because you won't let your ego, take a back seat to what you have to do when you're out training or when you're out hitting, when you're out working, I call it. Been calling it that way for years. And a lot of you guys, don't want to hear this, okay? Now, you can't take what we do and turn around and do exactly the same thing we do, because we do bat reviews. We've got to hit. I've got 3 big bags of balls. The bag's probably got about 100 balls. I got 300 balls to hit. And what we do is we review bats, senior softball bats, and we have to hit. In that bag, we have to hit 44 375 compression balls, and we have to hit tournament-ready balls, which I don't suggest you do in BP, but we do reviews. We have to test the bat. I'll give you an example. We have to test these bats with balls that you hit in tournaments. Now, what a lot of people will do is they're not thinking about the ball, and they'll get out there and hit a higher compression ball when they're doing a bat reviews. Well, that makes a bat perform different than another bat. It makes a stiffer barrel perform better when you're hitting high compression balls than it does a soft barrel bat. So they don't get a true review on a bat, or when they're testing bat speed off a ball that's a high compression ball above, I would say, a 44 375, because that's what seniors hit. Very seldom do you see a senior hitting a 44 400. It's usually, unless they have to. I've only had that happen twice in a tournament, and that was the rock balls, and we hit them last year. So we hit the balls that you guys would hit in tournaments. That gives us a true review on every bat that comes out. If you might get some, I call it a false positive, whenever you're hitting high compression balls and these guys get out there because that's all they have, because that's all they're hitting BP, and they're hitting a harder barrel bat, that bat will perform better with that ball. But we do reviews on reviews on bats, what you guys hit in tournaments, which is nothing higher than a 44 375. Now, that being said, that's how come you get these higher exit speeds with balls that are hit, or this one bat wins this exit speed challenge. It all depends on the ball that they're hitting. It's got to be the same ball, guys, that we hit in tournaments when we play senior ball, SPA, SSUSA, all the other WSL, all those other ones. So we do our reviews on that we hit in tournaments. Okay, that being said, Billy, back in the early, when I first started doing this with Billy, 1980, and I would go, and he was already hitting. He was already playing with big teams. I think he was playing at Howard's at the time. And I would come out there, and I would pitch BP to Billy. And Billy would hit 250 balls on Monday, 250 balls on Wednesday, and 250 balls on Friday to get ready. Well, during this time, he would hit. I'll tell a story about this. You'll hear it in the audio, but he would hit the shittiest balls that you can hit in BP. And my question went to him, and he hit on baseball fields. So here's my advice. You hit the shittiest balls you can in BP, okay? I'm not talking about like he did. He would hit oblong balls. Ultimas, Plus, Tournament Plus. I'm just throwing some names out there because you remember those balls were hollow. They had a core on the outside of them, not a core, but they had an outside layer on them pretty thick, and then the inside would compress on you. So when you would hit them, they would actually implode. They would flatten out. Well, Billy always, that's how Billy taught himself. He would hit the shittiest balls. He'd hit on baseball fields, and he'd hit on fields with the wind blowing in. And he taught himself, and it takes a long time to do this, to cut the ball, to cut through the ball, to hit downward. And I even asked him this in the 80s, how do you hit the ball so far when you're hitting shitty balls? He goes, are you hitting against the wind? And he goes, well, here's the deal. I train that way because if they switch us to stadiums, or if we're going to a tournament and they're using shitty balls, it doesn't do anything to me because I've already trained to hit that ball. So what a lot of you guys don't like doing this because you're not going to perform very well in BP. And you want to stick your ego. You want to take your ego and you want to put it back because it's not all about how far you can hit the ball. It's about how you spray the ball around, how you go oppo, how you go up the middle, how you pull the ball 5-6-0 and do it with authority. Okay, Billy told me if you train the way I train, whenever I was training with Howards and Steels and all those other big teams back then, you get this where you go to tournaments and you get this confidence where it doesn't matter. You don't ask about what ball they're hitting. You don't ask where you're playing. You don't look and see which wind's blowing in. You really don't give a shit because you've already trained actually, and you've hit a lot of balls and you've hit a lot of shitty balls and you've trained to cut that ball. And if you can hit a shitty ball out, you're going to go and actually your batting average is going to increase when you go to play these big tournaments because these big tournaments like to use, that's their attraction. Their attraction to get teams to show up if they use a good ball. And you've already trained with a shitty ball, but just think about what your batting average is going to do. Because you actually have to hit the ball down, too. A lot of you guys hit them hot-ass balls and you hit the ball up, right? You hit the ball in the air. I'll see how far I can hit it. That's what I'm talking about, egos. But if you train with a shitty ball, you can't do that no more. You actually got to learn to bring that launch, what they call a launch angle. You got to bring that launch angle down, right? You got to start hitting that ball through the infield. Because, if you're hitting a shitty ball, the home runs, you're not going to do a lot of home. You're not going to hit a lot of, I know I've been there, guys. I've done it back in the 80s and 90s because I've always hit with Billy and I'll always hit shitty balls. So that makes you a better player. So a lot of you guys are asking me that question. And Billy even said, you got to train to hit the ball down and hit it very hard. The home runs are going to come because you're going to get that backspin on that ball. And you've been training with that shitty ball. So the question was asked to me, because we don't do it anymore because of the bat reviews. But I try to hit when I'm training or getting ready for a tournament, I try to hit the shittiest balls that I can hit. And I hit it down and I try to cut it, which I've learned back in the 80s to do. It's just so very hard to be 50, 55, 60 to learn to cut the ball. It takes a lot of practice. You got to hit actually shitty balls. And that's how come what they call D-bat, okay? D-bat and our D-bat down here in San Antonio has the worst, almost like a cloth ball. The day-night Dudleys, remember those back in the 70s? They're like hitting socks. So that's basically what we grew up hitting was a sock. And it actually makes you a better player later on whenever you developed all this. And too many of those guys out there is they have that big ego. They get up there and they'll start to get that lean where they just want to hit the ball as far as they can when they're hitting them high compression balls. So my advice, long story short, listen to this little clip. I talked to Billy about this and he actually talks about it. My advice to you, hit the shittiest balls out there, 44 300s, 44 275s. Your bat's going to last longer. That's another thing too. Our bats crack. We're not trying to save our bats. So we're hitting the 44 375, hot balls that you hit in a tournament. If we crack a bat, it's basically how you're going to crack a bat. We don't try to save our bats. When we break in a bat, we try to tell you, get as closest to the number of how that bat breaks in or when it breaks in. And the only way we can do that is hit 44 375 balls. But if I was training, if I was trying to get better, like you guys are, I would hit a lower compression, a lowest you can get, a turd ball, prime example, y'all guys remember that Trump from a couple of years ago? They don't make them anymore. The Trump that they had out there, it was a shitty ball. Nobody liked hitting it. They always like hitting that rock. Those balls are very good to hit in your bag. A lot of old balls, that actually just wore out. Those are good balls to hit I'd suggest, and they last on your bat. You can get out there and, instead of getting 600 swings, you can probably get 1,200 swings on a low compression ball. Hitting, I suggest, 44 275s, 44 300s, nothing higher than a 300 to hit BP in. A lot of the BP balls have, and this is this is the deal about which a lot of people out there play into your ego, because they make a BP ball that instead of hit a BP ball that'll fly, it doesn't have any seams on it, right? It's a compressed ball and it's made hot. I've hit them, guys. I know you hit that ball and it spins a lot better, so it goes a lot further. Any kind of ball that actually is compressed and doesn't have that many seams on it actually goes further when you hit it. So it's a disservice when you buy those BP balls that when you hit them, they fly. That's actually defeating the purpose of what you want to do when you're hitting BP. In my opinion, Billy's opinion too, because he's the one who taught me all this back in the 80s. So I would not get anything that flies. I would not get it. BP ball's fine if it's that one core, that compressed ball, rubber ball, is what I call them, but just not fly. Those would be awesome because you can actually wipe them off if they get a little, because of the dew in the mornings. If they get a little wet, don't worry about it. Just wash them off, and they last a long time, but they can't fly. If you want to get the work in, you want to get the practice in, get a ball that does not fly, get a ball that lasts a long time, get a ball that doesn't damage your bat. So, and I really don't look into, I should more, but I don't look into what BP balls are out there. Do your research. Don't get a high compression BP ball. Like, there's a few of them out there that are 400 compression, 44 400s, 52 400s or something like that. Don't, that's just too much. Get a lower compression balls. Even hit some trashy ass 44 300s balls, because I can tell a difference when our senior bats hit those balls. They're not like the 44 375s that we're hitting in our bag. So, and here's a little picture too. I'm gonna give you guys a picture of balls that we hit in our bag, but that's to do reviews on. It's not to take BP. It's just to do reviews on. And when we're doing the reviews, I have some balls too that are in the garage. When we're done doing the review, I'll pull those out and we'll just get ready for a tournament by hitting them shitty balls. So that's it, guys. It's the best. Listen to this audio of me talking to Billy. I kind of picked his brain about it and asked him about it on what he used to do back in the 80s. Thanks, guys. Good morning. Can you please put an end to this debate on which ball to use BP in? The topic continues to come up, and 200 comments later, zero help. Thank you. YouTube discussions would be awesome.
For which ball for what?
Which ball is the best ball to hit for BP? What balls? And I said, I'll do a video on it today.
Because the best ball for us to hit is not the best ball for them to hit. They want to hit a ball that's not going to tear up their bat.
So
we hit a ball to test the bats.
Yeah. So people see what we hit and they want to hit what we hit, which you shouldn't be doing.
Because it should tear up the bat.
Yes. Which tells us
in reality.
Yeah. Which says
how does it tear up the bat?
Well, they're harder. They're like the rocks. Mm-hmm. Or the Thunder Advance is a harder ball, but that's what we hit in tournaments. Correct. We always hit a good ball.
We're hitting a tournament level ball. Right. They make balls that are softer that you can hit BP and you don't break your bat. You don't break your bat as fast.
Gotcha. Okay, let me tell you a little story here. 1981. It was 1980. It was right before 1981. It was at 1980, and Billy asked me to come out and pitch to him. He sees me at a tournament. He says, "You got a job?" And I said, "No." He goes, "Why don't you come out and pitch to me?" So I show up, and he's got 3 bags of balls. No screen, no pitching, remember? No pitching screen. His wife, when I walk up, his wife's pitching to him. DJ, which plays ball. She's a pitcher.
I know.
So I walk over there, and you're a little young. I didn't know.
I know who the boss is. I know who the boss is.
Yes, she is the boss. She is the boss.
I know who the boss is.
So I grab him. I start pitching to him, and I've been pitching for about 8 months, and That's what I was, a pitcher. But I couldn't control the ball at that time. I was just pitching right over the plate. Well, all of a sudden, I look down, there's a couple balls that are oblong. Got little tears in them. So I threw him. He goes, what do you... Typical Bubba. What are you doing? I go, these balls are shit. He goes, no, I hit those balls. Go get that. And I go, you hit this ball? And when I would throw it, it would go whoa, 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 up in the air. And, dude, 95% of the balls he had in his bag were shit balls. They were crushed. They were just like socks. And I would ask him a question, and he would not answer. Why are you hitting shitty balls? Wouldn't do anything. Why do you do this? Because I was a kid, right? I wanted to learn, and he ain't teaching. Why do you do this? So he comes up with a bag of brand new balls, and I'm like, thank God we got new balls, because I'm tired of pitching those socks, because they look like a sock. And all of a sudden I open up with this Optima Gold Tournament Plus, right? Of the same Spalding Tournament Plus. Yeah. And they were hollow. They had hit him in a tournament, and everybody was pissed, except for Billy. Well, Billy grabs up all of them because nobody wanted them, right? And he brings them home with a couple of bags of them, just pearls, right?
Like 80 or 90 balls.
So I realized why nobody wanted them. They're hollow. The inside, they had a thick outside cover. They had no core.
It was a 1-inch layer of plastic, and the inside was hollow. You throw it in the water.
Wilson Optima?
It was a bobber. And nobody liked them. I liked them because I spun the ball. I didn't have any. We played with them in Oklahoma City in the ASA National. I didn't have any trouble. I spin the ball. That ball would fly like a frisbee. Them big guys would hit it. Boom, the ball would go.
Like Bruce Meade, because Bruce Meade didn't cut it, he hit it square.
Them big guys mashed it. That ball would like jump to the pitcher, and then like a parachute came out. And
so
usually everybody would take balls home. After every game, I would go out there.
Because nobody let him have them.
Batting practice balls, baby.
So he goes, there's optimal. What you gonna hit him? Okay, so I'm up there, and because I was a square ball hitter. Boom, and I'm like, oh God, you got to be freaking, and I'm pissed, right? Because the balls were hitting, and he goes, and he gets up there, and he's cutting, and he's hitting them a mile, dude. And I'm like, okay, he only said it about a few times. Then I go, all right.
Yeah, but I took him to eat pizza every day.
You fed him.
He fed me.
I fed him, man. He was happy.
And he goes, you got to cut it. So whenever I was getting frustrated with my swing, he goes, you got to cut it. And I'm going, okay. So what I started doing, he goes, listen,
what are you talking about?
And this is what he told me. He goes, you've got to focus on hitting the bottom half of the ball and hitting down through it. And that way you hit a golf shot and it would rise on you. He goes, it's the only way you can hit a shitty ball.
Well, go with him. Give that other stuff.
Against the wind.
Just eat the cost and then go with him. You like it. He's a nice guy.
I was up there and I started learning to cut the ball. And I was it took me a couple of years, man, to learn how to cut the ball. No, it's not that easy. And you've got to change your swing. You got to attack it going down. Well, his theory back in the day was hit the shittiest balls you can hit in BP. Hit on a baseball field and hit with the wind blow in, because if you remember Gonzaba, the wind would blow in from left field all the time. And he would train his body to hit that shittiest ball he could, so when he would go to a tournament, they were hitting 40, 52, 500s or 47. Then they went to 47, 500s or 475s, which was, but they're hitting a little bit bats. But he already knew, doesn't matter, his bat could be until later on with a low performing bat, but he learned how to cut the ball. So that's what I did. So when people talk about nowadays what kind of ball, like a discussion came up this morning, hey, will you please do a video and tell these guys what kind of ball to hit? Well, all these guys, they don't tell you, like the axe handle bat, those guys are hitting 52 500 balls and they're hitting them a mile. Your bat doesn't perform hitting your bat should not be judged, because here's the deal, when they grab a high compression ball and a high core ball and they go out and hit your TPS, your H1, that barrel is hard. So what's going to happen is that it's going to recoil. It's going to fly, right? But if they grab a Dudley 2.0 or a Dudley OG and they start hitting with it, it's going to implode on that heavy-ass ball. So if you really, here's the deal. A lot of guys won't do it, though. They won't hit shitty balls because it's all about, they don't want to, yeah, it's BP. They want to see how far they can hit it.
It's all in their head, man. You got them. I'd hit shitty balls all the time, and then we go get on a softball field with the wind blowing in.
Didn't give a shit.
That's just another day at bat practice, and you see them big guys, even them big guys that match. Oh man, fuck the wind! They're trying to hit a ball down. You know, they haven't practiced hitting the ball down. You know, they practice hitting home runs, hit that fly ball in the wind.
And that's what Billy said back in the day too. He goes, you know what? He goes, I can, with me training like this, I can go to any field, baseball field, doesn't matter. I can hit any ball, and all these guys are complaining about the ball. Problem is, a lot of guys won't put their ego to the side to train to get better. They go out and get these, you know, stadium balls, and they go out there and start testing bats. You know,
used to steal his BP balls and all his shitty ones. We used to hit them into the creek. Balls suck.
I'd have guys want to come out and hit with us. They come out and hit one time. I'd see them at a game. Hey, you want to come out and hit again? No, I'm good. Them balls, your balls suck. Your balls hurt me. Them balls can't do nothing but make you better, man. You learn to hit that ugly ball. When you see that brand new ball coming, it's like, nice.
Well, your confidence is just so high because you know when you go to tournaments, which tournaments count, VP don't count, but you go to tournaments, and let's say the wind's blowing in at a tournament. That never really bothered me. That never really bothered Billy because you've been training to hit that ball down and hard. It'll cut through that wind.
And trained to hit, you know, another part was hitting line drives and base hits. A lot of them guys never practice that. All they do is practice hitting home runs.
You know how many videos you see out there on YouTube, and I've watched most of them, of guys just actually working at their game. Johnny Bailey, there you go. He actually works at his shit, man. Hitting the ball right, hitting it down.
Red Hightower said he would hit with ball drilling. That was his BP partner. He said they would go in the morning, and Brett would hit, and he did 100 balls opposite field. That was all he did in the morning. 100 balls opposite field. He said he'd go work out, he'd go to work, get stuff done, and then him and ball drilling would hit before league night, and then he'd pull 100 balls. He said ball drilling would go do pizza and shit like that, and then they would meet back up.
Everybody wants to be a YouTube star. It's so funny watching that.